Hey friends, Dan here from Worship Productions. Right now we're going to show you how to install a rental grade panel on a Super Strut. It's an economical way to put your panels running from the floor up. We're going to raise ours up about 1.5 feet off the ground. We're going to show you how to do the Super Strut. Very economically, you can buy Super Strut, all the different pieces at Home Depot, and get all the pieces you need to put this on the wall. Very key to this is making sure that you understand that your video wall is going to be about 2 feet away from the back wall so that we can install and we can actually maintain your screen as well very easily. Now the first step that we have to do is we're going to go ahead and cut 2-foot segments of Super Strut. We will show you how to cut the 2-foot segments of Super Strut so you can go ahead and have those that are going to be coming off the wall, and then you can use the other 8 feet to go outside the wall. So our first step beyond cutting the Super Strut, once we cut Super Strut, is going to be to actually put this 2x8 on the wall. This is 10 feet big. This is 10 feet big. Even though our sailor package is 11.5 feet wide, this is 10 feet big. We're not starting. We don't want the wood to show on the outside. Your job is to go ahead and to make sure that you have found where the studs are inside your wall. You're going to level off this stud to put this on the wall. Okay. We're going to put about 5 different screws at every single stud, so we have a good firm grip. And that's how we're going to utilize that. So once you go ahead, right now you can go ahead and mark up your wall and find out where your studs are at. And you're going to put that 8 feet 4 inches high. Well, from the very bottom, actually doing 8 feet is fine, okay? So 8 feet from the bottom should be fine. You're going to put that on the wall, okay? So you're going to watch this next step with us, and you're going to see how simple it is to put this on the wall. All right, we're now measuring, so we put some screws in 7 feet 4 inches up, and this is just going to be to rest the wood on so we can drill it in right there. So we just put in about 4 or 5 different screws, 3-inch screws. Okay, so once we get that up, we have 5 per stud to make sure that this is going to be good anchored, and then we make sure it's all the way through.
I'm going to show you how to cut some Super Strut. First, we want to measure out 2 feet. So we'll go ahead and find our measures, and we'll take our mark, and we'll make sure we mark at the 24-inch mark. Please remember to always wear your safety glasses, if not eyeglasses, and hand protection. Here we have a regular handsaw, but we do have a metal cutting blade. As you can tell, the tip does look different here than a regular wood saw blade. So we got our marks measured out, we got a straight line through it, and we're gonna make our cut. And simple as that.
Now, as you have the Super Strut, you're gonna go in and put the 2-foot piece connected to the 8-foot piece. Here, we tend to do it backwards because it just has better stability. And this will help us keep stability from the wall. Okay, so when you get this strut together, you want to make sure that this is flush here because this is the side where the screen goes. Unfortunately, we cannot find smaller bolts. Usually, if you can get a 1-inch by 1/2 bolt, that'd be awesome. These are actually 3 inches. We had to make do, but this is the kind of structure that you need here to go ahead and put that on. What we're doing now is laying just a layer of foam on the top. This will help keeping the screen from experiencing a lot of vibrations, which will help us maintain our screen a lot better. So they're going to run that strip across the top, and then we'll start assembling some of our screens along the way. Okay, so if you have 3 or 4 people helping you out, that would be ideal for this screen. What we're going to do is we're going to take one of our power cords connected to our power, and we're going to plug it in because we want to test these before we put these up, so that way we can make sure that we make any repairs if necessary that happen during shipping. These are just locks. You put it in, lock it that way. I see that the screen is on, and I can test this out here, by the way. If you open up this screen, you're going to see that every screen is made of some basic parts. You have your frame. The handle is always to the top side, by the way. You have your frame, you have your power supply, your receiving card, and then you have modules. So on this screen, on one panel, we actually have 8 modules. Modules are pieces of the screen. The reason they put these in pieces again is that if one breaks, you don't want to take off the entire screen, you simply unscrew one module. One module will have 12 screws in it, 3 on each side. The ones that are harder to get to are the ones that are here because they're underneath the power supply. But very simply, you gotta make a repair. You just move out the 4 different cords there, loosen this up, pull it out, and then unscrew those modules, and you have the modules you can pull out very simply. To test your screen out beforehand, because you wanna make repairs during shipping time. Sometimes these pixels break and so forth as well. So you wanna make sure you kind of do repairs beforehand, because it's a lot harder to do it when they're up there. But right where these red and blue buttons are, there's a little button there. I press that button, and if I press it, we'll look up here. We're seeing that our screen is red, and I'm looking for any bad module, any bad pixels on here as well. If I press it again, if I press the button again, then it goes green, and then it goes blue. The best place to taste it is actually on white. So white, you kind of see a true account of the screen, and this one looks to be okay. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna start putting our super strut connected to the wood on top. But first, we wanna make sure we measure this out. We're gonna put our first panel in. We're working on a Sela package, which has seven columns, or 7 panels wide and 2 panels high. So a panel is approximately 20 inches wide. We gotta go off the super strut. It's not gonna be exact, but on this particular super strut, in between the 2 of them, I have 18 inches from one end of it to the other end, which now gives me 20 inches to make that happen right now. And so what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna go ahead and get the first one here and get it nice and tight. Once we have the first one nice and tight, we're gonna screw in the top and start adding more to the other side. And so back here, if you come and look here, you'll see that we have enough for our screws to fit in here to go ahead and do what we need to get done to get this screen to be right, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and take some brackets. Can I have my brackets, guys? And my screws for this. And we're gonna go ahead and start mounting this screen on here as well. So. On these particular ones, you want these to be facing up because you're going to be connecting another panel for our second row. So as they put the next panel on, it's imperative that these get nice and tight and that they're flush in the front and flush up on top. So I would sometimes put my finger up here to make sure that we have it nice and flush. Right here to make that the seams are flush, and obviously in the front want to make sure that they're flush there as well. So let's go and start with the bottom, guys. Make sure, tell me if we're okay.
Yes.
We flush? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so again, once I have my lock in here, I'm going to go ahead and push it in, and I push this up to make sure it's in all the way, because every time I move this, it should be tight, hard for me to push up. If it's loose, this is not in all the way. You got to push this up to push the lever over all the way. So I'm gonna put a little bit of force on it, and then up here, flush on top, guys.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, wait. Okay, you're good.
Okay. Good. So, and I'm gonna go ahead and now lock that in, nice and good, right there. So now we're pretty much locked in. Now I'm gonna take this again. This would be the wrong way because I have another panel up on top. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the right way, right there. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna just use my screw gun at the very lowest level, okay? I wanna make sure that my screw gun's, the clutch is very loose, because the idea is not to tighten these because I don't wanna offset the panels. I just wanna be able to get a little snug in here. Let's get another panel on this side right here. Okay, so we're flushing the bottom. And top does not feel too flush. We're gonna go ahead and put our lag screws in again, about a 1 inch, 2 inch in here, and we've got that measured up. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and add another pole just as we go through along the edge so we know exactly where it's at. So we're going to bring that over. Now we're going to go ahead and add another panel. Again, keep in mind that these go flush with the actual super strut, not beyond it, okay? Again, once again, we're making sure that's flush up here and flush in the front as well, okay? Again, having three to four people on the screen helps a whole lot. You can do it with tool, but just know that the time you're saving having one person, it's actually not saving time. It take a whole lot longer. Screen nice and firm. Now we're going to add another pole again. It is a little bit challenging because these aren't exactly made for this, so we got to kind of take our adjustments as we go. We're going to go and level that off. Just let you know that yours probably will not have cords attached, but if you want to attach the cords after, you just simply, they're just cum locks. So I bring it down, there's a little groove in, pop it in, and then we go ahead and lock it in that way. And the same with the actual data cord. The data cord's here, you can see the way the actual cord is going. And they snap in like that, and that's pretty much it right there, okay? Do we flush on top and bottom? Okay. As you saw, it was not catching because it was too far away. Now we're catching there. So I do want to note here that on this last panel, this doesn't exactly fit the right way because we're going to be off on this side here. And because the way it's slotted, we could either have cut it there and made it go in if that's the case. We found that just using one of these is fine. As long as it keeps the panel in, we're good. Because we already have this one on nice and secure. Just that these slots don't always match up. They don't match up sometimes. Typically, by the way, we're doing this with heavy reinforcement. We have one for every single panel. Usually you can do every 2 panels. But again, if it's gonna be a permanent installation, we recommend, especially in California, we have a lot of shaking, to do actually every 1, okay? And if we do go higher, we can even send these higher all the way to the top. We go higher, we're gonna have to put some other brackets on this to make sure it's nice and tight and reinforced as well. I'm gonna go and put one in here. Now we're gonna go ahead and we have 2 more panels to do on that side, so we'll do those 2. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and add another brace here, another super strut here as well. Pushing this up. Try to get as close as I can here. Can we get the leveler guy? Now we're gonna go ahead and connect the other panel. Reflesh guys on the bottom and front? Yeah. Yeah? Okay. And then I always like to do a little bit on one, then a little bit on the other to make sure we're good. Nice and flush. Okay, so now we're on our last brace once again, and we have about a good 10 inches here, so it's going to hang over, and that's perfectly fine because these are actually made to lock in together where they're strong anyways, plus the brackets we're putting on them. So we're going to go ahead and make sure that this is aligned correctly. we're gonna go ahead and put in the last of our panels here. Again, you don't want to bend the brackets because it's going to mess up the front of the screen. And this one we cannot get the other hole in because we only have the holes to work with on the Super Strut. We could go ahead and drill something and put a washer in there, but the purpose of showing you that, we'd actually cut here and then put a washer on the other side to make sure it's really secure. But if you notice, this wall's already super firm, super firm already. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and finally drill in the rest of our tops, so we can have that all very secure. And we'll get back to you soon. I just want to make a note. We have enough space back here, about 24 inches, enough to fit a little ladder or step ladder. And also, if you can, I wish I can see just how firm this is. This is extremely firm. We don't even have the bottoms screwed in for the purpose of this demonstration. But what happens when you do have the footings, we take a look at the footings here, the footings in the bottom, you would screw those in at the case B, but we don't need those for this demonstration. But this would be very firm for your screen as well. Now we're going to go ahead and start on the second row right now. So the second row, we're just going to go and we're going to work from our right to our left, and we'll be able to plug it all in and see that operation. Okay. This is how it's supposed to look with a nice 1/2 inch in bolt by 1 inch. You have to order these from Home Depot probably a week ahead of time because they're hard to find. If not, you're going to get 3-inch bolts. It's not going to be as aesthetically pleasing. So you really want the 1-inch bolts that would fit really well. And they're 1/2 inch width by 1 inch. Okay. Now we're going to start assembling the top row here. So they're going to start handing me panels. Same process that we did before as well. So now we're going to go ahead and assemble the second row. We're going from right to left as mentioned, starting here, right here in the corner, and we're going to go ahead and work our way across. You want to make sure that, again, we have cables on there because we're using these for demonstration. Otherwise, you want to make sure that you don't have anything on there. Okay. So as we get this, we're going to line this up properly here, making sure that it's flush. So. And then if you notice here, up here, we're not going to be able to reach another bracket. What we like to use here is firm zip ties, very thick ones. Zip tie would be just as well. The bracket has this. This is already locked in this way, so this is going to lock in this way. So it's not necessary to go ahead and put another piece of Super Strut, or else we go all the way to the top, because we don't want our Super Strut to show. Okay, so that's why we don't go all the way to the top. So as we continue on right now, we're about to put another panel in. Make sure when you put your panels in, you bring them straight up and down. Don't go like this and tilt them up, because you'll break the pixels on here. So make sure they come down straight, and you want to make sure you protect them as much as possible. Okay? And I'll help guide them in. And again, these have little screws and notches here that will catch and kind of tell you where you're at. You still need to make sure that's perfectly aligned on here, okay? So we're going to go ahead and connect the two here. And lock it in. Lock it in. Now you want to make sure you lock the bottom ones as well. Very important here. Push that up. Lock in. And lock it in. We're flush, right? So we're going to go ahead and connect the other panel, but before we do, these are the kind of zip ties you want to use, something heavy duty. This is great. You will find no movement in your screen at all. We kind of take it through both handles there, both handles, and just get a nice firm grip. Now this panel ain't going anywhere. It's locked in. If you want to put another one on top, you can as well. But this panel is locked in both from the bottom, locked in the sides, locked here, and locked here, so you're very secure on that, okay? And just retie in this one. Good. And then I put the bottom ones on. Again, if you notice, they won't go in unless you push the tab in. And just get that, and then you can go ahead and get that nice tension on it. Again, if these are loose and you don't feel like they're tightening, then they're not in all the way. Come back over here, use another nice zip tie. And then we'll go ahead and proceed to the last panels here. Okay, so we have our wall now completed. Now we're going to go ahead and program in just a moment. Want to note that what we did is on a Sela package, we have seven panels on 2 rows high, which is a total of 14 panels. When you are connecting these in a 3.9, you could have a maximum of 11 panels for the data cable and a maximum of 9 panels for the actual power. These are power cons. Data cables are going to be the Ethernet cables similar to this as well. Depending on the type of series, it happens to be a simple 5 Cat5 Ethernet on that as well. But I do want to note that if you do have outdoor, you're limited to 8 panels per power. And if you do have the 2.5, same thing, 8 panels and only 9 panels max for data reading, okay? So I just want to make a note here that we went ahead and daisy chained all of our data across. We're just going straight across that way. We daisy chained all our power across. And on the second level, we did the same thing, power and data across as well. So it all just went right across. If you want to make a note, just if you could just see just how sturdy this is very, very sturdy. You want to have the bottom in, so this can be perfectly fine for your screen. Even if we went up 3 panels, what would happen? We would actually put 2 of these on top of each other. We have a 4-hole bracket that allows us to connect together as well. So you're going to get all the way up as well. But if you do that, want to make sure we have multiple braces running across your particular wall, okay? So this is going to be nice and elevated. All of our stuff is hid in the back, except for the legs that are pointing on the front. We'll show you that as well. We typically plate those black or kind of match the back of your screen. Some people put some drapery or some wood on there to make it look like it's an elevated area as well. But let me show you now how we power on these screens. We come over here. So we are now going to go ahead and these particular power cons are now connected to the actual power source or the plug, okay? So what we're going to go ahead and do is plug these in as normal as we would the other ones. And I cannot reach that one, but I'll reach that one in a moment. And then this one will go right in here and we'll plug that in there. And then the data cords go in just as they would typically here. I do want to note that right now, as this one's plugged in, you can go ahead and see that we have red means we have power, and the blinking green is very important to make sure that we have data running through. It's blinking green. It's not just solid green. It's not a fast green. It's blinking. So on here, if you go ahead and she would pan out, you'll see that all these are lit up. So that bottom row looks like we are 100% in the bottom row. And then now for the top row, we're going to go ahead and plug that in. Okay, so we now have our screen connected. You can see how nice and neat it looks, nothing on top. Again, someone might want to spray paint those or put a drapery down below. That's perfectly fine. But if you notice the screen right now, it's actually just duplicating different patterns over and over and over again because we have not programmed the screen. We have not programmed the controller yet. So let me go ahead and show you the brains of this as we come this way, please. If you look right here, you're going to see that what we have here is we have now the, we're using, actually on this one, we're using the 600, which is more than enough for that screen. Usually it's going to be a 300. And then we're actually using the 909, which in most cases on a screen that says be the 615, but they go the same way. This is the controller or the sending card, and this is the video processor. This helps map out the screen. This helps scale the screen and then work as a switcher as well, okay? So let me show you a few ways we connect this first of all. So if I go ahead and turn this over here, you're gonna see that we connect the data cords back there back in the back of that screen, the 2 data cords. Those 2 data cords are going to the controller first. They're coming in here and they're coming in as one Cat5 there, one Cat5 there. This particular sending box has enough for 4 ports. This can run a screen of over 45 panels. In this case, it's only a 14 panel SALA package. So what happens, first of all, I'm gonna plug these in with the power cords, both of these power cords plugged in. My next process is to connect my Ethernet cords to the sending box. Again, if you have a little 300, you do the same thing there as well. And now the connection, the way that the sending box reads to the processor is through this DVI cord. So on the bottom, I just have one option of DVI out. However, on the processor, I have a choice of DVI out or DVI in. Excuse me, the bottom is DVI in. On top, I have the choice of a DVI in or DVI out. So what's gonna happen here is that I'm gonna get an image. I'm using a HDMI cord. Again, you're using a PC, Macs do not work with this. So I'm going HDMI out to my processor on an HDMI in, okay? Now the signal, if you wanted to use an SD cable, if you want to use a VGA cable, a DVI cable, you have all those different options as well. But this is what's coming in from the computer, okay? And now going out is gonna go out from my DVI cord. Again, this is a beefed up processor, so it's bigger than what we typically need for this screen, because I can actually send out 4 different, this one I could send out 2 different DVIs out on this. We only need 1. Later on, this is not concerning you perhaps, but we can actually piggyback both of these with other processors and other controllers as well for the big screens we have with a high resolution. Once again, HDMI out from my computer to HDMI in. Send this signal out from my DVI 1, sending it out and putting it into my controller. From my controller, it goes into the DVI, and then we're going Cat5 out to the screen. There's one more thing that is really important, and it is this particular USB cable. This USB cable is only used for programming your screen. So you connect it from any of your USB ports out and into the controller, not the processor, into the controller. If you notice, it's kind of interesting, it has an old school printer USB. So I go ahead and plug that in, old school printer. I plug that back into the spot where it goes. And now I can go into programming my screen, okay? Again, take a glance at that screen once again. Again, it's just duplicated over and over again. Does not look correct. So how are we gonna do that? Let's go ahead and take a look over here. So we always wanna start with our controller first. To make sure that our controller has the ability to do what we need to do. So in here, I'm gonna use Novastar LCT as the programming for the screen that we're using right now. So we'll let that open up here. Open that up, it says sending card, receiving card, or screen connection. Sending card, receiving card, or screen connection. Don't go to sending card and receiving card. That's a space where we would need to go to if perhaps we were actually gonna have to reprogram every single panel, which we don't want to do. So we go to screen connection here, and then what I need to do is I need to make sure, first of all, that I have the right screen size, the right panel size. Now in a 3.9 screen, you're gonna need to have this at 128 by 256. When it comes in, it might be 128, 128. Our screens for the 3.9 are rectangle, they're 128 by 256. If this was a 2.5, we would want it to be 256 by 256. these are actually in order. If they weren't, you just press apply and press apply. So now I know it has the right screen panel size for each one. Now the key to this here, you see here we have a sending box. How many sending boxes in this? We have one sending box we have down here. If there was a giant screen, we would piggyback different sending boxes. My sending box has 4 ports in it. We're only utilizing 2, okay? So what we gotta do is we need to come here where it says columns and rows. So how many columns do I have in my screen? I have 7, my panel 7, my screen is 7 panels wide. So I'm gonna put here 7 columns. How many rows do I have? My screen right here, my Sela, is actually 2 rows high. So that's correct. Now I press reset all, okay? Now this is like you're looking at your screen and the panels that you have already. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and make sure that we program these right. So I'm gonna go to now my port one, and I'm just gonna go ahead and click the way that these are in order. Remember, this is as if we're facing the screen. Behind the screen, it's going this way, but we're facing the screen, it's gonna go this way. So I'm gonna click right here, and I'm gonna click away to the next one. It has a little S to start, a little E to end. Go there all the way to the end, because we're just running ours straight. Now I go to port 2 now, because that was port 1, port 2. I'm gonna do the same thing. And if our screen is actually in the right direction, we'll see what we have here in just a moment. Once I do that, now I'm gonna put down here, very important, send to hardware. And that will now send it to my screen. And I want us to go ahead and take a look at the screen. Okay, so now as we take a look at our screen, it looks like we got it pretty much down pat. It looks like it's in proper order. But if you notice here, that this part of the screen is not showing anything. So before you freak out and say these are broken, they're not broken, they just have not been scaled. Remember, that's what the top apparatus, our processor's for, is to scale the image, okay? But our mapper says that these are pretty much in order the way that it should be. So let's come back and let's take some very important steps. Do not miss these steps or you'll be very disappointed afterwards. What I have to do is I now have to save this in 3 different ways. The first thing I need to do is I need to put save to file. And you can just call this whatever your church name is. So I'll just put Christ Church, and I'm going to call this the Sela configuration. Okay? And put save. And it says it saved that right. Don't think you're done yet. Please do not think you're done yet. You got to save this 3 different ways. The next way is down here on the save button. Right there, that is probably the most important one because it's going to save it to the actual panel. So now the cards on the panels read that. So just as a note, if you later on try to reconfigure your screen, you're going to do the same process here. Don't think the panels are going to go automatically unless you number them. You can number them in order and it'd be perfectly fine, okay? So it says, okay, I have one more save system, okay? Save system. So we're going to go and save system, and we're going to go ahead and call this. Okay, so our last thing to save is save system here. Press save system, and again, just be the same thing, Christ, church. I don't want to make sure with the same SCR, I want to be saved something else. And I'll put just config again, but it's now going to save it in the right system here. Okay, and we press OK. So now everything's been saved the right way. To make sure it's been saved the right way, I'm going to turn this off right here. I'm going to turn the controller off, and I'm going to turn it back on. Okay, and we'll look and see if the screen comes back on the right way here in a moment. Good. Okay. All right. So our screen went on the right way. It's saved correctly. Okay. So now I can go ahead and close this program. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead now, and I'm now going to scale my screen correctly. So let me press this. This will be showing our screen in a moment. Remember that we have those columns on the side that are not showing, and here's the reason why. Let's take a look now at our processor again. Whether you have this 615 or 909, it's going to be the same process, okay? First of all, by the way, I want to make sure you're coming out of the right button. If your screen did not show, it's probably because you might have been on the wrong out. We have our DVI going to this on out 1, okay? Also, the input coming in is HDMI. So again, if you have nothing on your screen, don't panic. Just make sure you press what the proper input is. I recommend doing HDMI first because it's easier to solve. Then later on, if you want to do SDI or something, you can do that. But start off here, it's probably the easiest way. But here's a challenge. If you look right here, because when you open it up, it's going to be in Chinese. If you don't know Chinese, what do? Find a good interpreter or go in Google. No, you go to setup here, go to setup. Sorry, this is how your screen would look originally, just all in Chinese, and you don't understand what that means. Go to setup here, and once you press setup, if I come back here, I'm gonna see that now there's a language I can choose, and I go down to language, and I'm basically doing it with my dial. I could either do this with my dialing in here or going down. I'll just go down to language, press OK. Now look, it still says I have some Chinese language. Now I'll use my dial to try to just get it in. I see the word English. English sounds good to me. Press OK. And now we should be good. I'm gonna back out of this now. I'm gonna back out of this now. And I'm backing out here, okay? So now we gotta come and now we gotta scale our screen. The way we scale our screen, I wanted you to notice that our input is 1080 by 60 Hertz. Perfectly great for your screen. But our screen size is the same. We need to fix that. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go back to setup, and output CFG is something you don't wanna touch unless I instruct you to do such, because that's using multiple controllers. So for example, if I had a huge screen, I'd break the screen up either 1 or 2 pieces, and that would slice them to make it all become one image. We don't need to use that for this size screen. Okay, so, but I do need to go down to output image. If I go down to output image here and press OK, I see that my screen says that it's 768 by 511. 768 by 511. Well, my screen actually shouldn't be that size, and I'll tell you why. If you would see here, we have in the screen here, we have 7 panels, and our 7 panels are 128 wide. Again, if this was 2.5, it would be 256 wide. But 128 wide, so times 128 equals 896. That needs to be my width. So I come back over here and I start turning it till I find my 896. Okay, then I press OK. And now my height, the height of my screen is 2 panels high, and those are 256 times 256. That equals 512. Mine says 511. I'm going to go down to 512 and press OK. Okay. Now I'm going to get out of here, and I'm going to go all the way, make sure no one touches, messing anything up, and I'll see now if my screen looks complete. So as we turn around, we're going to see if our screen looks complete and what we have going on here right now. Okay, so now if I look, I have a complete screen all the way to the end, and we get this beautiful, beautiful look on our screen. This is a 3.9, and it's a beautiful look. And what we want to see here too is that very clean look on our screen. A couple things to note, that if you're setting these up and you have a broken pixel, you might see a broken pixel somewhere. That's why it's always good to test it beforehand. It's a little bit harder to fix a pixel when it's actually on the screens. It's still easy, but it's just a little bit. It's still not too bad. But you can fix a module, literally replace a module in about 10 minutes if you just had it on a flat surface. But you look and see if you had any pixels going on that you can fix as well. Not a problem as well doing it there. Just a little bit easier doing it before, and that's why you test the screen out beforehand. But if you do have one, you're going to send it to us, and we're going to repair that for you for free if it is fixable. If it's something that you did by banging or damaging it, then that might not be the case. It might be fixable, repairable, okay? So just send those to us as well. A couple things you need to note is that I can turn off my processor and my controller, but that does not mean my screen is off. You want to make sure your screen has the longest life it can, and you want to shut it off when you're not using it. So the process is turning off my processor, turning off my controller, which is probably in your media booth, and then if you have like a switch going back, because you have these on a breaker, you just go ahead and turn it on the switch on and off and be able to turn your screen off very, very easily, okay? But make sure you turn it off and turn it on as well. You can use a power strip as well. A couple of power strips will work fine as well. You want to protect your screen as much as possible. Just say, by the way, there's some things I can do. Say your screen was down on the floor low and someone broke a bunch of pixels and you know it was your fault. One thing you can do is actually lower the height of your screen and you won't even notice the bottom. I could take away about 2 lines on the screen and you're not going to notice. And the way I do it very simply is by coming back to my my processor here, and I go to the size. I just go setup and I go back to the size, and instead of it being 512, I could even put it maybe a little bit lower at like 510. And now if you guys come with me here closer, come closer fast, you can barely see it, but what I'm not using 2 rows here, 2 rows of lights, okay? So, and you can't tell from a distance, the screen looks absolutely perfect and gorgeous on that screen. So this is a Sela package. This is using Super Strut, saving you a lot of money on the install. We can also do custom welded frames if you want them as well. That's not a problem, but this has been pretty efficient and effective for us and for you. So on this screen, by the way, this is an outdoor screen. We have it very, very low because if it's bright, it'll blow you away. Let me show you one more thing on this, and then we'll be finished with this particular demonstration. On this particular processor, I can control the brightness right here. Want to make a note, I want to get out of this because I don't want no one to touch this page. I want to make sure it's back in the beginning where no one can mess it up, okay? But brightness level, I'm barely on 30. That screen's on 30. If I go this, I can continue to move this thing up and down with any way I want to and get that screen to be extremely bright. But again, you got to make sure you have the proper power to do so, okay? So with that being said, again, we love to help you out, and either we can actually do the full install for you if it seems like too much. Number 2, we have an option, we can send a project manager out there. You have the materials, we'll give you the materials you need, you have the labor, and you have the tools, and he basically coaches your guys and shows you how to work your screen and how to maintain it and all those beautiful things as well. That's a project manager option. If you're watching this video, you've probably chosen to do it yourself. Well, you can go ahead and do your screen yourself, but don't not try to take shortcuts, and please protect every panel. You do not want to break pixels. Please, please, please have people that are helping that will be very careful and treat these like your babies, okay? If you do it on your own, we'll be here for phone support as well to make sure your screen is up and running. Thank you so much for enjoying this demonstration with us. We look forward to helping you bring your vision to fruition.